Oh, your camera's backwards.
Oh, yeah. Can you fix it?
I don't know how to
Oh,
fix it
okay.
without one key in front of one.
What about the chat? It's just looks different. Looks totally different.
It's
Do it.
there. You're live.
It's on?
You're live right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm live. All right, Yuns. So Wednesday night, we set Wednesday night aside for the Tribe Plus members, and we call it the consulting evening. I'm a little bundled up here. It was cold today. It's like 23 degrees, and the wind was howling. Yeah. So I'm still kind of chilled to the bone. Not quite used to it yet, I guess. That's part of it. But we set aside Wednesday night for about every other Wednesday night. We have the consulting call, is what it's called. And this is a service that is part of the Tribe Plus membership. So if you're a member of the Tribe Plus, which costs you 49 cents per day, on every other Wednesday, or until we have, like this influx of people coming, we come on via a Zoom call, and that's where your faces are on the board as well as mine. And we have a chat as long as it needs to go. And typically we have about 4 people that have taken advantage of it. And we just talk about whatever it is that they want to know about. And some of the questions are pretty easy, and some of them are quite in depth. If we have to go to the board, we do. I'll take as much time to answer it as I need to, and I will answer as many add-on questions or follow-up questions as a person has. And this is, like I said, the consulting call. Now, I am the premier homesteader here in these United States. Why? I'm certified. Actually, my wife has certified me as the premier. So I am. And I know everything there is to know about homesteading and other things. I know everything. So you have the opportunity to come on and ask me any question you want. Now, tonight, nobody came. Here I am sitting 10 minutes and nobody came. So I said to Jill, I'm psyched to do this. So let's do it. But we'll just do it on the regular channel like we used to, and kind of use it as a platform to tell people that the Tribe Plus is alive and well and doing pretty well, by the way. It is really. You're on Zoom waiting, Belva? What the heck? Well, I'm committed now because I was sitting over there for the longest time and no one showed up. So is Dave. Well, what do I do now that I'm over here? I thought you guys just weren't interested tonight. Tell you what I'll do. I decided to come over here and do this just because, I've been kind of waiting to do this, and then I'm going to go on with the rest of my day, eat. Okay, you're okay with just watching YouTube? Okay. All right, so we'll just stay here and do it here. And I know it's going to be going to people who are not Tribe Plus members, but we want to bring more people into the Tribe Plus. We really do. What is Tribe Plus about? It's a way that you can kind of have the inside track on all the information that Joe and I put together, all the how-to videos, all the really special stuff, and they'll be coming continually over the years. Hopefully you stay with us. And what it does is your 49 cents a day finances it, helps it so we can do it. because, everybody's got a family that they need to feed. We really love to spread the information out, but, there is such a thing as fair trade. And we're not at a place where we can do super chats. We can't do that. We don't have enough subs, I guess. And so this is a way that people can support what we're doing, right? And the mission of Anyone Can Farm, as you see right there, see how serious I am about this? The mission is to motivate, equip, and motivate, equip. I do this all the time. I need to write it right on the desk here, but you know what I mean. I'm having a Joe Biden moment. Get people to the point where we've passed enough information to them that they can enable. We want to enable, all right? Encourage, motivate, encourage. And that's the idea. And I was talking with a guy today. Actually, it's Matt Kolvac. I was talking with him today. And we were talking about the project. He comes and helps with stuff. And we were talking about the project of revitalizing the milk house under the barn and all the stanchions and everything, and go back to milking the way that barn was designed to be used. That's what that barn all there for. It's got the big hip roof on it so you can store the hay, but underneath the hay mow is where the cows came in and got milked. And just off of the hay mow, there was a milk house where the milk was probably strained and then put in cans, the big milk cans, and cooled. And in those days, the way they cooled it was they had a big trough and they would run well water into it. That's as cold as they could get it back then. And then it would be set out by the road, and a man would come by and pick up the milk and go to the next farm and pick up the milk and drop off empty cans. I don't know if they were sterilized or not. Who knows? But that's how it was done. And it was done. This farm is 1900, and it was done like that up until the mid 40s, right? So for 40 something years, that's how they did this. And that the guy that built this place, if you could imagine going back 100 years and seeing that barn when it was brand new, and that was the state of the art technology. And of course, now they have robots that milk the cows. Crazy. I don't know. I don't think their profits meet the way it used to be. I somehow I don't think so. Anyway, this is kind of an impromptu deal. You can see Jill didn't set it up the way she usually does for some reason, and stuff's backwards. And but I just wanted to do it because I get psyched for that call. I get psyched for that consulting. I really like it. I think it pays. I think people benefit from it greatly. And I can see in the years to come, I think there will be, far more need for it. And my feeling is that we need to be training our replacements. So Zilka, you got this seat, okay? You got this seat, all right? Let's see. It's like a lot of action on this. I'm not reading any of it so far, but a lot of people came over here. So I wonder how that happened. Mike H. been meaning to do the Tribe Plus. Well, get her done, boys. It'd be really good help. Even if, I've heard that there's a few problems, a few bugs in there, but give it some time. They are working on it. Joe and Lorna and Jill, they're working on it every week to work the bugs out of it. It's like anything, but imagine Anyone Can Farm experience a year from now being 3 times as big as it is, and then 2 years from now, just huge. Will be as big as the Smithsonian Institute before long. And I'm kind of kidding. I'm saying it tongue in cheek, but honestly, look at what we have in front of us right now in our country. We have a system that is falling down. It's just collapsing on itself. And when something collapses, like an old building or an old institution, it might not be a bad idea now that I'm thinking about it. And what are the American homesteaders now? Who are we? We are the future of America, I believe, because we can't go from industrial agriculture to the next thing that will maybe work. No, what else? What's beyond industrial agriculture? Space agriculture? I don't know. I don't think there is anything else. Traditional agriculture, the way it was done forever, probably since man was created, there was some form of agriculture, worked, and it worked really well. Like the man that put this place together, Ben Brinks, he lived a very good lifestyle here, and it counters what the industrial farms mantra is. The industrial farms now, they're usually corporately held, and then they have a bunch of hourly employees. And the hourly employees are not making a very good wage. They're not making a wage that you can support a family on. So how is that? Even if the bottom line of the organization is good and the guy at the top is making some money, is that really working if all of your employees have to be either illegal aliens or kind of bottom of the barrel, settle for a crummy job type people? That's not conducive to increasing the versatility and the viability of our country. It's not. It's not working. Even if they kind of are propped up with government money and it looks as though it's working, it's not working. So if at some point the farm subsidies come to an end, which we say farm subsidies, it kind of rolls off your tongue like, oh, farm subsidy. Well, a subsidy is money that is taken from the taxpayers that is probably earmarked for things that benefit all of us. And then it's given to certain types of business. And people get used to it because they say, oh, a farm subsidy. Well, we all eat from farms, so it benefits us all. But those businesses would fail without it. And so we're eating off of a business that's failing and has to be propped up by the government. That's not good. If a business is going to fail, it needs to fail. And then another business will take its place that is more efficient, better managed, whatever it takes to not fail. Right? But for some reason in farming, because they control so much land, and the lawmakers decided that we need to prop them up with subsidies. Now, a lot of these industrial ag farms, they are farming the government is what they're doing. But let's say that comes to a screeching halt, which it's a choke point for sure. I mean, in warfare, you're always going after your enemy's choke point. And it is a choke point that has been created, right? It doesn't naturally occur there. So it's been created. Well, if somebody can get their hands on that choke point, I think they probably would at this point, especially if they're wanting to have a food shortage. The thing about independent farms, decentralized farms, family farms, homesteads, there's no way to really choke them, because we don't fall under the same authority as the people who have taken huge amounts of money from the government, from the USDA. So if you take a bunch of money like that from them, then they have you, and you got to do what they say. So let's say that industrial ag does come tumbling down, which it is right now. Um, a lot of those systems are not working and they're collapsing. Then what's there? What's available? You know, our farm is doing okay. We're doing okay. We're doing well, actually. And I recently hired a guy, right? Because I need help doing what I need to do. And I can see things look pretty bright on the horizon. And it's a mindset, actually. If you look at what happened during the Depression, there was a lot of people who were locked into the system, and then the system failed. It took those people down with it. But there were other people that had never been part of the system, and they were able to see lots and lots of things being sold really cheap, bargains, I guess, and they capitalized on that. And the stories we hear about people not doing well during the Depression are the ones that get told over and over and over. So we're fearing depression, but a depression is a depression for some, but um, a high point for others. It just depends how you position yourself. So when the commander in chief came out and said, "Oh, food shortages," what do you think that did for my business? Because people think, well, we want to go to the farm because the farm can always produce. People don't really know what happens on farms, but they have an idea that we can always produce. We're not producing it out of nothing, but there is a lot of things that we are able to take advantage on the farm that we don't pay for. I don't pay for the sunlight. I don't pay for the fertility of the earth. We help the fertility of the earth. We help it along. We try to replenish it. I'm reading a book right now, though, by a Japanese farmer, and he says that composting is not such a good idea. So we'll see. I'm going to read more about that, and I'll try and report to you. Actually, my sister-in-law gave me this book, little paper book, kind of old, and I'm reading it. Read a lot of it last night. Very, very interesting. But yeah, these farms and these disciplines that we're passing on, butchering, building, fixing, maintaining soil fertility, uh, vertical integration, they call it. And that's like flora and fauna. And you have them in close proximities, they complement each other. But you have to learn how to do certain things. You got to learn how to build fences. You got to know where to put fences, how to lay it out, how to distribute water, how to become efficient on the farm, like use the technology that is available to us to enhance your traditional farming system. Like when this place was built, I really don't think that they had electric fences. I don't, because they didn't have electricity here on this farm. They didn't get electricity here until 43. So, yeah, I don't think they had electric fences. So they used barbed wire. And, barbed wire is good, but it's not great. You still have animals that start leaning over it. And yeah, they're getting poked, but that grass is awful good. And then they step through it and it stretches out. And the wire back then wasn't as good as the wire we have now. It didn't spring back like the stuff we have now. So I say use what we have available to us now: electric fence, PVC pipe, black plastic PVC pipe. Stuff is cheap. You can distribute water all over the place for pennies, just pennies. What else do we have that's really good? We have so much equipment laying around in this country. We were talking about last night, scrounging. We have so much raw materials just laying around in this country because people, they see a pile of scrap wood and it's like, What do you want me to do with it? I don't have a hammer. I don't have a saw. What do you want me to do with it? So they haven't developed the wherewithal to see the beauty of a scrap pile of wood or a beauty of some scrap iron or some sheet metal that's been left around or whatever, um, electrical fixtures, wire, um, cast offs from, uh, let's say, the prep table at a restaurant. There's tons of calories that they're just sending down the garbage disposal. That we are so blessed with resources in this country, but as Americans, we've grown to think that, oh no, if I'm going to feed chickens, I feed them chicken feed from Tractor Supply, and that's it. That's what they got to have. Even though it's $15 a bag, it's probably 20 now. And so by the time you get your eggs, boy, them some pretty expensive eggs. Chickens don't need to be fed that stuff. They don't need to be fed exclusively that. They should probably have, a pound of that a day, but then feed them other stuff that they can subsist off. All the garbage from the house, they go wild for coffee grounds, and then they go running around. It pumps them right up. I hear somebody laughing in the other room. So let's see. Yeah, the new America. I think it's going to be just like the old America was, that worked really well. We got into this agribusiness thing heavily in the 60s and into the 70s, and they were saying, go big or get out. Like a spell that they put out there. And so guys who were small farmers who were actually doing quite well compared to their counterparts that lived in the city working in the factories, they felt as though they would do better if they got big. But how do you get big if the land next to you is owned by your neighbor? Right? So it was an effort to divide people, because then there was fighting over land. Because if you could get more land, you could borrow more money. You had more assets. And it was a bad thing. And that's really when in the 60s, when money, and we were still on the gold standard then, we were until 71. But even then, they were creating, or they were utilizing fractional reserve banking and fractional reserve lending, which is not good. The government did that. USDA did that. They would have so much money to lend out to farmland. They'd get, say, 10,000, but they would lend out millions, right? And then they were paid back in real money that went back into the government coffers. That's how they create money, actually. That's how those guys pay themselves, those bureaucrats. So anywho, if we return to the family farm, I think a lot of things are going to change. We would have more good people out in the country, I think, more hardworking, good people. Even out in the country, we have people who do not work. I don't know how they do that. I mean, I've never been there, but I guess if you're home all day, you can figure out ways to not work and still bring money home. I really don't know. None of my neighbors are like that. All of my neighbors are very hardworking people. Both sides and all around, they all work. So I don't know anybody around here close that's like that, but I know they do exist in town, especially. All right, let me see what people are saying. Okay, so what I thought was we'll do a consulting call for everybody tonight. So if you give me your questions, I will answer them to the best of my ability. Of course, it won't be as good as the consulting call because it's not a Zoom call. On a Zoom call, I can hear your voice, I can see your face, and this isn't fun and games, you guys. Now this is real life. The information that's being passed on is usable information that if you take it in, it might not be able to utilize it immediately, but it's good information to have. And then when you get to that point where at that stage of the game, then you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this question was asked, and this is what he said about it. And honest and true, I need people to replace me. We need to replace. We need to train up our replacements constantly. For your information, we filled the last seat for our beef class last night, and this was kind of encouraging to me. It was a video that this person saw, a female, and she's in Tennessee, I guess. And she called up and she said, "Count me in. I'm coming, and I'm coming to the next one too." So she's going to be here this coming weekend, and then she's going to be here next weekend. So she's going to go back home because she's got to work, but she's coming back for the charcuterie class too, all the way from Tennessee. Now, I am thrilled about that because I know that there's a very good chance that the person who is coming is a serious person and a person with a sense of urgency. Okay? So, this is why I'm willing to do this, because the more of you out there with a sense of urgency about this function that we're doing and how it weaves in to food security, which weaves into a secure nation. You know, we have our food supply. We are self-sufficient. Right now, we're a little shaky. If you ask most people where food comes from, Walmart. Will come from there. They have no idea. Or maybe they kind of know, well, probably a farm someplace, but they don't really know what it takes to, say, raise a chicken and slaughter a chicken, a beef, a pork. What does that take? And it's been sort of not bred out of them. It's been sort of informationally omitted from them that, just 60 or 70 years ago, most of you did this for a living. Most of you could butcher a pig, could butcher a cow, could butcher a chicken. Now the numbers are really low of people that could do it. It's changing. I mean, we're having a class this weekend, 12 people learn how to butcher a beef. It's full. Now, how does that happen? I mean, why are people so in tune to wanting to know how to do this? I think it's instinctive, honestly, a lot of it. I think that, there's a lot more instinct in us than we know, because we are consumers constantly of information. We're constantly consuming. And I think that deadens down our instinctive feelings. I have instinctive feelings, and I missed out on a lot of things as a teen. I got to tell you this. Like, I never saw the shows that were going on that people would talk about in school. I never Dukes of Hazzard. I never saw it. I never watched a full episode. I never. I think I left off on TV shows about Gilligan's Island, right about there. And then I was a teen and I had no time for watching TV. What didn't interest me that much. It wasn't that much fun. And so I never really saw much of it. And so my instinct grew because of some of the things that I pursued. I spent a lot of time building things. A lot of time in the woods, a lot of time taking engines apart. And then I got into cars, and my parents' driveway my father used to go crazy. Get that engine out of here. I'd leave it sitting in the middle of the driveway when I'd go and test drive with the new engine that I put in. And he'd come home and there'd be an engine sitting in the middle of the driveway. And he leaned against it and it burned his leg. I got so good at pulling those things out. you know. And so my instincts grew, and where a lot of people around me didn't so much. Norton Safety, restart your computer to complete installation. Nah, I don't think I'll do that. Like recently, I had a guy approach me, and he needed some legal help in a thing that was going on, and my instincts just said no. I just instinctively could not help this guy, and it was really strange. But I had to go with my gut because in a lot of ways, if I get in any kind of trouble doing that, it reflects on the tribe, and I can't risk that at this point. I'm not willing to risk it at this point. You know, people really do have to learn how to fight their own battles. And this guy wanted to corner me on this, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I got a bad feeling about it. If we've gotten any expound on. Oh yeah, look at this. Okay. I'm going to see who we got here. We got Justin Z, Belva Rockwell, Mike H, Julie Batchman West. Did I pronounce that right? Julie Batchman West? Okay, too late. Now you get us. You get. All right. Off grid with Dave and Sonia. We are here now. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry about that. All right, Justin Z, you're right. Let him get a taste of the Tribe Plus. Okay, let's see. Okay, Joel's saying if you have farm or homestead related questions, pop it into the chat and Mark will get your answer. All right, Dave and Sonia, he's got the question you sent. Yeah, I'll do that one first, Dave and Sonia. Okay, and Jill's put in a link to Tribe Plus. That's for you, Mike. Snag Creek Farms, pork fat rules. Right on. Okay, cool. Belva, I can do that. She's saying, can I touch on caring for animals in the winter, shelters, calories? What's too cold for them? Okay, sure, I can do that. I can do that. I got to tell you, though, I got the steel from my building that I'm putting up. I'd put a picture on my Facebook, and it's a picture of Jill standing on top of the structure, you know, giving me a hard time about, hey, these don't look quite lined up, you know, Mark, here. And she says, this doesn't look level. You need to giving me a hard time. I took a picture of her. And anyway, I got the steel for that yesterday. And when I got home, it was blowing really good. And it was, you know, putting steel up, you can do it by yourself, especially there. You can just put it up, get screws in at the bottom, and then get up there and put the screws in. It's long. It's a long process, but I've done it before. But by yourself, no, especially with the wind coming from the direction that it was coming. There's no way I could have done it. I mean, I could have, I suppose, but I wasn't going to do it. And it was cold. And I had things to do in the house, actually. So I just came in. Actually, down in the shop, I had things to do. So Matt called me yesterday, and he says, do you need help putting that steel up? And I said, well, yeah, but it's supposed to be windy tomorrow. And just no answer. So he's a construction guy, all weather animal, you know, nothing phases him. And he showed up here this morning. And it's like we're standing out there and the wind is just whistling. And of course, I'm not going to say anything. Like, you sure we want to do that? No, I'm not saying anything. So we went to it. Bob Podbelski came over and helped. And we got the whole roof on. Finished up about 11:30. And I came in the house to get a cup of coffee. And I've been kind of hovering around the wood stove ever since. It was cold today, just whistling. And the roof looks good. We're in good shape. I'm really thankful for that. So I did get something done today. All right, so let's go to this first question. This was from Dave and Sonia. And I think this is a mix-up because of some of the things that I've shown. Recently, I showed something. It was a chicken butchering day, and we feed the guts, the chicken guts, heads and feet, to the pigs. And so I've got 3 groups of pigs. I've got the mothers and the boar. That's the maternity area. It's a half acre. And then I've got the feeder area where we grow things, and then the pigs do the harvesting. So we're feeding them out, but we grow things for them. But I also feed them too. So I give them guts as well, guts and feet and heads, and as well as, the regular ration that I'm going to give them. But anything else that we can find, pigs really can eat a lot of things. And I showed that. And I was driving the tractor, and I had my camera, and I was just showing it, kind of a gee whiz thing. Look at how much gain I'm getting from this. I'm getting paid to butcher these chickens, and I get to keep the guts and the heads and the feet. The customer doesn't want them back, so I get to give those to my pigs. So they're not only paying me to butcher their chickens, they're feeding me for a day, right? So all that protein that doesn't waste. That helps knit together, especially in the maternity pen. It helps knit together baby pigs. These taste like chicken. These pork chops taste like chicken. So one of the loads that I was taking over to them was the last load, and there were some feathers that had been swept up off the floor. And so when I dumped it in, a big clump of feathers came out. So I think that's why Dave and Sonia are asking this question. Do you feed feathers to pigs? It appeared that I was feeding it to them. I really wasn't. I just didn't take the time to separate it because the pen is a hotbed of bacteria, the pig's pen. And anything that we put in there that's organic will be consumed by the dirt that's in there. So I don't like to put feathers in there because, especially in the summertime, because they dry out and then the wind picks them up and you have feathers blowing all over the place, you can imagine. So normally the wet feathers go into the compost pile by themselves, and it's really neat. I have several compost piles, but they're quite high too. Some of them are like 10 feet high and sloped up. And I'll go over and I'll put my bucket loader onto the top of it and push it down, and then pull like a volcano. I'll pull it open, right? And when I pull it open, a lot of times, oof, 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 here comes the steam out of it. So I know that it's active. And when that's really active like that, and then I dump a load of feathers in there and close it back up, oh, you can hear those guys having a good time. So it feeds the pile is what it does. And those feathers will be gone, by the next time I go there. They'll be completely gone. So that's what I normally do with feathers. But in that case, I did dump them a load of a lot of feathers in it. But to answer the question, no, the pigs won't eat. They won't. They won't even. At this point, they'll push them around to see if there's something under them that they need, but they will not. They're not interested in them at all at this point because they've got them enough to where they know, I don't like this stuff. So, she says, or is it similar to bedding? It is not similar to bedding. When we bed the pigs, we bed them with straw, And when I put straw into their pen, they will immediately take mouthfuls of it, and you'll see them walking over to where they sleep, and they'll put it down in there so that it makes a bed for themselves. So I don't put it in there for them; they do it, and that's straw. Or if I give them hay, they'll do it with hay too. You know the difference between hay and straw. Hay is dried grasses that's used for feed. Straw is if you have a grain crop like a barley or a rye or something like that, when it grows, it heads out on top. That's where the grains are, and then it's taken off of there with a machine called a combine. So it cuts it off at the bottom. So that stalk is not part of the. I mean, it's the stalk for the grain pod head, but it's of no use to the people that use the grain. I mean, you can't use the stalk. You can't grind it up and make bread out of it, but they do grind up the like the wheat pod or the wheat head and make bread out of that or make flour out of it. So the stalks and the leaves are dry and they're just spit out the back. And then normally what happens is somebody will come along and windrow those. So they'll rake them into a row and then come along with a baler and bale them up. And so that's how I get it. I don't make my own straw. I buy it, and it's really inexpensive. You know, I get it by round bales, and they're big bales. They're like 900 pounders, 1,000 pounders. And the guy will only deliver them if I buy, I think 30 at a time. So I do, and I usually use what I need during the winter, and then whatever is left over in the summer, I will just add it to the fields where the pigs are on and where the chickens are, and it's bedding, right? And so it adds organic material to the soil. It's something for the microbes in the soil to eat. It adds diversity to the bio um, the bio load, I guess. And it doesn't hurt, you know. Usually those bales will last a couple of years and then they start breaking open. And when that happens, ooh, you've got a real project on your hands. So we don't like that to happen. So try to get rid of it when we're done with it. The bed, so that's bedding. And actually, they will eat some of that. They will actually eat some straw. There's a lot of energy in that. And then the next question is, do pigs eat bones? And the answer to that is chicken bones, yes, all of them. They'll heads, feet, everything that's gone. Turkey feet go last, but yeah, they go. Um, rib bones from, say, deer, they'll wipe those out. But some of the bigger bones, I suppose they could eat them, but I don't think they want to. And they just wind up getting left out there. Like deer hooves, they will leave those alone. They just don't do anything with them. But if you throw a carcass out there that's been stripped, they'll eat the ribs. They'll eat anything they can get off of that. They'll eat it. All chicken bones go. Big beef bones, not so much. If you throw a beef head in there, once you've stripped off everything you can get, they'll pull off everything that's left that they can, and they'll work at it. You'll see them standing on it and trying to pull the bottom jaw off so they can get in there and get things. But they don't actually eat the skull. So you know how they say that if you wanted to dispose of a human body, you could just throw them in with pigs. I don't think that's completely true, because there are bones that get thrown in there from deer, like leg bones and stuff, femur bones that are about the same size as certain human bones, and they don't crunch them and eat them and swallow them. At least my pigs don't. But maybe that's because I take such good care of them and feed them. Okay. Let's see. Can you touch on caring for animals in the winter? Shelters, calories, what's too cold for them? Okay. So every animal has different needs as far as in my experience. Okay, so let's just start with chickens. Um, I have seen a lot of people feel as though they need to hang a heat lamp in with their chickens to keep the chickens warm. I've seen a lot of that. Matter of fact, there was a man that came here not too long ago, bought 4 pigs from me. Um, and he told me a story about his barn burning down. Yeah, not good. We hear about that all the time. This just happened about a month ago. He bought these pigs from me. And I tell you about that all the time. Heat lamps burn. Heat lamps burn buildings. Bottom line. Uh, am I saying your chickens don't need heat? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Here we are I'm not as extreme north as I could be, but we get pretty cold weather here. And we've never had chickens die from too much cold. What you want to do with your chickens, you want to make sure that they're not in direct wind. That's it. They just need a windbreak. But they'll sit on a perch, they'll puff their feathers up, and then their metabolisms will go into overdrive and they'll regulate their heat. And if you pick up a chicken in the wintertime when it's really cold, pick it up, try this, hold it with one hand, and then just push your fingers in against the flow of their feathers, like from the backside towards, so you can actually put your fingers on their skin and you feel it and they're burning. They are warm, right? We don't have that ability to do that, I don't think. I could be wrong because we just never really go to that pain to adapt to cold weather. We just don't. I don't. Well, it's cold out. I think I guess I do. I do swim in the morning in ice cold water, but I don't adapt to it. I don't, hey, this is nice. It is, but in a different way. It's not like I would relax with my feet in ice water. It's just not that way. But maybe we would adapt to it. I've heard accounts of like Admiral Byrd's men working in very cold weather with their shirts off. I've heard of that, but I haven't actually seen it. And I know if you want to research Wim Hof, you can see videos of him ice climbing in gym shorts and a pair of boots with spikes on them. You can see the videos, right? And he climbed Mount Everest in gym shorts, Mount Kilimanjaro in gym shorts. Video proof of it. I know because it came up at Thanksgiving, and my brother-in-law said, "I don't believe it," because he's a big-time hiker. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'd have to see a video. Yeah, you can say what you want. I could see the written accounts, but I'd have to see a video. Here's a video right here. We all sat there and watched it. Now, I suppose a person could say, "Oh, that's photoshopped. That's not really Mount Kilimanjaro." I wouldn't know Mount Kilimanjaro if I was there. I don't even know where it is. Never mind what it looks like, or Everest for that matter. So anyway, the chickens will adapt, but they really do need to be out of the direct wind, right? Out of the wind. You got to keep their water open. Right now, the chicken house that I haven't turned the heater on in their water trough because I haven't needed to. And I go down there in the morning, there's a little bit of ice on it, but I just break it. I'm not going to use electricity if I don't have to. So, and do you really need to keep their water open all day long? Not really. Before we had the nice new and improved chicken house that we have now, we would take water down, just one dish over, step on it, the ice would break out, and then put in new water, and they'd all come over and drink. That'd be it. That's all the water they'd get for the day. And it would stay open until until it froze over. And I don't know, probably most of the day it would stay open. They'd keep it open. But the way I'm doing it now, I'll be able to run a little bit of electrical current in there and just keep it open all the time. So we don't have the buildup of ice in the chicken house. I don't want that in there. All right, so let's talk about the next animal up the chain. Let's say rabbits. Same thing. Rabbits got to be out of the direct wind. The enemy of rabbits is actually heat. They can't handle heat. They die. But cold, no. They just need to be out of the wind, and they need a little bit of bedding. You don't want them sitting on the cage floor, because there would be wind coming up from underneath, I would think. And that's where they're vulnerable, is probably their belly. So if they had a little bit of bedding, nice dry straw, they're fine. We've never run any heat to the rabbits, and they do just fine. They even kindle in the wintertime. You know, they're good at it. They just need to be, you don't want snow coming down on them. You don't want rain coming down on them. So we have a roof over them, but the sides are open. I'm finding out, though, that the reason we've been having kindling problems, kindling is the word for having bunny babies, is because our dogs are constantly going around the cages and sniffing and looking at them. And sometimes they lay under the cages in the manure. And if the rabbit is stressed like that, they won't take. So that's probably what it is. So what we need to do is, on the inside of their cages, just put a blind up all the way around so they can't see. And the dogs can be wandering around, but they'll never see them. Right. So I'm going to try that. And then keeping their water open is a little bit more of a challenge, because we use the drinkers. But what Frank does is, every night he brings those in and sets them in the house, and then he brings them out again in the morning. So if they did freeze up during the day, or during the evening, yeah, and he brings them in, they thaw, and when he puts them out first thing, the rabbit's going right to it. Of course, if they're in the house, if the drinkers are in the house, then the water's going to be warm, right? Let's say cattle. Again, milk cows, where they have, their teats hanging down, and they are getting wet, and they're not covered with hair. You want to protect those the best you can. So you're going to want to provide bedding for them, because when they get cold, they want to lay down on it to preserve their heat. And they need to be laying down on something that's going to keep them off the ground. So that's bedding. And that's where straw comes in. Well, having a lot of straw around is a good thing. But they don't need heat lamps. They're the same as chickens. Their thermostat gets turned up. And if you ever want to feel real live heat, when it's real cold outside, and I'm out there and I'm petting the cows, warming my hands up on them, I'll open my jacket up and put it over a cow like this, and it will just fill with the best heat. It's really, really nice. You got to try it out sometime. Or it's like sitting on a horse bareback when it's really cold outside. It just radiates up through your body, up under your jacket and stuff. You can feel it coming out here and everything. It's that nice horse smell, But again, no heat. Our milk cows can come in the barn, and they get a windbreak, and that's all they need. Let's see. Horses. I've seen horses standing out in the worst wind, and they'll just turn their rear end to the wind, and they just stand there, and they don't seem to be distressed. And you can tell with a horse if they're distressed, but that doesn't seem to really bother them. They just stand there. Beef cows are the same way. I mean, they don't really need to be inside. They just kind of are outside. So let's see. What else is that? That leaves us to pigs. Um, Depends on what kind of pigs you have. The Mangalitsa pig, which is the pig that you should be raising, if you're a true American, of course, God-fearing American, because that was the pig that was depicted in the story of Noah's Ark. I don't know if you guys know that, but that's why I raise them, because I'm so devout. And they're hairy. So they have an outer hair and an inner hair. The inner hair is sort of like the insulation. The outer hair is sort of the protection, almost like armor. And my pigs, they'll bunch up in the snow. They'll all lay in the snow like a bunch, and they have actually been drifted over. And I go out in the morning, and it's like, hey, the pigs are gone. Go out a little further, and then I see a head poke up out of the snow. Like, is that you? Is that you? Have you got food? And then they all want to jump up to see if it's me, because usually I am the bringer of food, so they're concerned where my location is in the morning, especially. I made a video of that. It's around someplace. But again, with pigs, they do need a windbreak. They do need a windbreak, and it makes a lot of sense to insulate them from the ground. So you bed them. And what I use is I use these huge oil tanks that we cut horizontally and then cut them again. So we have these like half pipes, and they have a back on them. The front is wide open, and it makes a really nice place for the pigs to get in onto ground that has no snow, and they'll haul bedding in there if we give it to them. But Mangalitsas are tough pigs. I don't know as they could survive in the northern Michigan woods. I know the Department of Ag thinks they could, but I don't think they could, because they require a caloric intake in order to maintain their body condition. And I don't know as they would find it in the North Michigan woods. I just don't think it's out there. You know, if they could run as fast as a deer, but they can't. You know, if they find a deer that's dead alongside of the road, they would eat it. And that's why you know that there's no feral pig problem, because all the pigs would be congregating around any deer that was killed out on the road. That would be easy pickings for them. Okay. Let's see what else we got. All right. Dave and Sonia saying thank you. You're welcome. Keith S. is with us. Donnie Mono, I had a rabbit escape. Named him Freeman. He's currently running through 14 inches of snow and having a blast. He's been out for weeks. I don't even feed him. Freeman find their own food. Yeah, he's probably going to find all those fruit trees that you planted recently. And he'll be saying, thank you. This bark is actually pretty good. We have wild rabbits here, and my dogs don't do anything to them. And it is surprising. You go out there after snow, how many tracks there are. And I have to protect young trees from them, because they'll do a number on them. Yep. Keith is saying, I use rubber water bowls for the animals. Yep. David Duncan's with us. Right on. And Belva's saying thank you. What else we got, you guys? I thrive on questions. Come on, Zoko. What do you got? Ask me something I don't know. Let's play Stump the Dummy. Any questions? Anything? Anyone? We got 5 thumbs up. Look at that. We got a pretty good crowd of people, too. They can believe that counter. I don't know. All right. Well, I've gone for an hour and 15 minutes, and it was an impromptu show. I'm Feeling pretty good. Ways to limit freezing water. I know of a few ways. They make commercial waterers, that are designed with heating elements in them, and a heating element that keeps the um, keeps the valve from freezing up. I actually have some. They were in the barn when I got it. Um, and these particular ones, are made for calves. So I don't really have any use for them right now. The thing about those is you get this false sense of security that they're just going to work all the time. And what happens when they don't? So I'm not real big on them. I'm a lot more comfortable with carrying a bucket of water to calves, because then I know that they're getting it. If they get behind and they get dehydrated, you can have problems. It's not good to let calves get dehydrated. So I kind of feel, and also in the wintertime, if they can get some warm water, it does them a lot of good. Heats them up from the inside. Okay. So that's one way you can have commercially built with electric heaters in them. But then what happens when you lose electricity? Does the whole thing split and destroy itself? Could. And out here where I live, we lose electricity a lot. And my thought is on losing electricity is, if I'm bucket watering my calves, let's say, and I lose electricity, it doesn't affect that, because I will, I can turn my generator on and I can pump water for the calves. But I don't want to have to run the generator constantly to keep the calf waterer heated so it doesn't freeze up. I don't want to do that. And you would have to, if you're out for a day and a night, or overnight, that thing can freeze solid and never come back on. Right. So I don't like that, because as soon as you have a power outage, you have problems. And, nobody wants to run your generator 24/7. I don't want to burn that kind of diesel. So, I don't know. There's something to be said for keeping it simple. And I know I talk against that sometimes when I talk about let's streamline it. And so I guess I'm being a little bit fickle in this case. But in the chicken house right now, we have a rubber made container. It's actually made to go in a corner, but it works fine. And it's screwed to the wall. And then I have a bird bath heater. It's like a donut about this big, and you plug it right in. It's got a thermostat on it. You can plug it in on a warm day, a 35-degree day, and you hold it in your hand, nothing, right? But as soon as it goes down below freezing, then you'll feel some slight warmth there. If it gets further down, it gets even more intense. So as the heat comes back up, it slacks off. So the other morning I went out, I had it turned on just trying to try it out. And I put my hand in the water. The water was cold. I put my hand on the heater and it was slightly warm, just slightly. So it keeps it just above. And those things are called bird bath heaters. That's what they call them. And I've got like 4 of them around here. Water for the cows. Okay. So I got a couple systems and I've got a backup to the backup. So I have a 275-gallon tub or truck where we milk. And all the cows can come in there and milk and drink. And hopefully they all lay down in there and it heats the place up, and it's makes it kind of nice. But that one, I have to put a much bigger tank heater in that, because it's got way more surface area. and it's probably gets subjected to a little bit more wind, a little bit more moving air, I should say, not exactly wind. And once that's plugged in, that stays plugged in all winter long. But it's thermostatically controlled, and we've never had a problem with it. Always kind of look at it and say, "Gee, I hope you don't fail me," because. But I kind of think a water trough electrical device, if there was a problem, it would probably kick a breaker, and I'd come out and find it frozen. But it's not happened. There was another system I heard about. I never tried it, but it was in a magazine that I read years ago. Might have been like a Mother Earth News magazine, something like that. And the guy said that if you have a trough that you're watering your cows in, if you take a small tire, like a 13-inch car tire that's inflated with a rim, and you put that in there and it's in full sun, then you'll never have to worry about your water freezing up. I read that, and there was a bunch of comments there too, and they were all good comments. I never tried it. But maybe. So those are the methods that I use. And the backup to my backup is this irrigation pond, and I can always go down there and break ice. And the cows will follow me because they know if I'm going down there, that's what I'm going down there for. And they'll all drink, and they'll just be happy people. Okay. Okay, Bell was saying, when should you remove ram lamb from mama? Rule of thumb is 8 weeks. 8 weeks. But that's usually because you want to get mama's condition back. We don't really do that around here. We kind of let mama decide when to quit nursing baby. And when mama's ready, she'll start kicking baby off. Because I'm not sure that whole nursing process and that expenditure of calories is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think they were designed for that. So, yeah, that's what I think. And we do that with the pigs. Unless somebody needs pigs and they're over 8 weeks old, then we'll take them and sell them. But if not, we'll just leave them on mom because she's processing food down and making lots of milk. And those babies grow really well on mama's milk, just like humans. It's a good design. It really is. Michael Maidley, what breed of cow for the homestead? Well, good question. We hear a lot about dual purpose things. You hear about a dual purpose cow, makes a good beef cow, makes a good milk cow, or dual purpose chickens. Excellent egg layer, and then you can eat them too. My experience has been if you want to milk a cow, buy a milk cow. Right? So go with a Jersey, a Guernsey, a milking shorthorn, a brown Swiss, Holstein. There's a lot of types of milk cows, and they're not that hard to find, really. We've got a Norwegian, a red, what is she? A Swedish red / Jersey mix. Beautiful cow. And she looks like a pit bull with the stripes on her. She's beautiful. Gives us really good milk, lots of milk. But that's a milk breed, right? So if you want to milk cows, which I highly recommend, there's good money in milk. I got a milk story to tell you here in a minute. Then get a milk breed. If you want a breed for beef, likewise, get a beef breed. Like a Hereford or a Angus or a Wagyu or, that list goes on and on. I don't know, Limousine, I don't know my beef breeds all that well. We have Herefords. He's been raising them forever, and his grandfather raised them before him, and his father too. So I like Herefords. I think they're excellent animals. They do really well on grass, and I've had nothing but good luck with them. Healthy, tough, and decent temperament too. I can pet my beef cows. Some of them, not all of them. And then we've butchered them, and the meat is to kill for. But any of the dual purpose things that you get kind of coaxed into, and it sounds good to your novice ears, talk to somebody that knows. You don't want to fool around. Any of these miniature breeds too, that's a scam. And I know people have a hard time when I say that, but I can buy an Angus, let's say, or a Hereford calf, weaned calf. So it's going to be 10 weeks old or so for 500 to 750 bucks, maybe even less now because all the problems with processing, right? But I think when last time we bought them, that's what we paid, right around in there. And then they'll be on grass for 2 years. So there's very little expense goes into them. You just got to manage them, move them around, but they go with herd, they'll go with the older guys. And you're butchering an 1,800-pound animal that has converted tons of grass into very high quality beef, extremely high quality beef. So it's hard to say what is the best, but I would just caution you against any of these miniature breeds because they cost a lot. I mean, they cost a whole lot. And what they're doing is they're saying, oh, you new at this? Well, you ought to get one of these smaller breeds, miniature breed, exactly. They're easier to handle, right? So they may be smaller than a Holstein by about half, but they're still 350 to 400 pounds, and they're very strong animals. If they don't want to be handled, you're not going to handle them, even if they are small. Even a small goat that doesn't want to be handled, you're not going to handle it if they don't want to be handled. So they kind of do that. There's several breeds like the lowline Angus, the Dexters especially. People, I want to get Dexters, and they think because it's small, it's going to be easy to handle. Not always true. I've known people that have had real horror shows with Dexters, and they've traveled great distance to get them. And then when they get them butchered, they get these tiny little steaks about this big. Oh, aren't these cute? Hey, can I have? No, you can't. You can only have one. Oh, that was a bad deal. Whereas if you had gotten an Angus, you'd have a regular size steak or even bigger. We like to let our steers go 3 years. I got a friend that thinks that I'm crazy, but you get a bigger steak, you get way more fat, which we love. Fat is the essence of the grass, that they've eaten. And I think that's where the sunshine is stored, actually, right? So it's hard to say what's the best. For milk cows, I had a Guernsey that I really liked. Before that, I had a Jersey that I really liked. I got a Jersey right now that I really like. So it's hard for me to say which one's the best. They all have their good and bad. Their personality is breed specific. Can be. I've got a Jersey right now that is a smaller Jersey. Her name is Ruby, and she is actually an exceptional cow. Right, so we're going to be drying her off soon. Not exactly sure when. I think January, because she's going to be calving after that. And she's still giving us 2.5 gallons of milk a day. And it's the best milk. It's like a milkshake. It's so good. But I had another one that was a Jersey who was a real jerk. And we actually processed her for beef. And her beef was pretty good, but she was about 8 years old, but she was a jerk. Okay. David Duncan, will pigs root out turnips or beets when the ground is frozen? The answer is yes. They actually get into it. It doesn't pop right out, so they bear down on it, and it makes a lot of sense to leave those crops in the ground until it freezes, because then the pigs have something to do that keeps them kind of busy. And those crops, the turnips and radishes, did you say radishes? Beets, turnips, beets, they get sweet when it gets frozen. They get real sweet. And so the pig has a tendency to want to dig all the way down to the tip. And when they do that, they're bringing soil up on top. And then what they're doing is increasing your topsoil thickness by doing that. So it makes perfect sense to, have a market garden for your pigs, turn them in there, and they do the harvest for you. And then they manure it back, they urinate back to the soil, and you just get an increase, you get an increase to the soil, plus you get the pork. And when you think that through and you start thinking that way, as opposed to, okay, let's put these pigs on concrete, we'll grow a crop of wheat out here or grain, and corn, and then we'll store it in bins, then and we'll give it to these pigs. You see all the middle steps in there? And let's just grow a crop out here, turn the pigs in on it. They'll do the harvesting. No combines involved. And then the manure that would have been in that concrete pad that you were going to keep them on that stinks, that manure will not be a liability to you as it would be on that concrete pad. It'll be an asset to you because they're manuring it right there in that field where you're going to grow the next crop, which you can get 2 crops per season. Sometimes you can get 3 crops you can get 3. You can get an early pea, then you can get a radish, forage radish, and then when that's gone, you can plant a rye that will take you into winter. I've got turnips going right now that I won't be on until probably end of December, after Christmas, because there's so many daikon radishes out there right now that they're finishing up. And it's been kind of nice because it was kind of a nasty day. I didn't feel like feeding. I didn't have to. They'll just eat the turnips. I mean the daikons. And the turnips, I was looking at them, and they're actually about this big. And the last time I looked at them, I thought, they were about like this. Well, we're not going to get much, but the tops will be good, and we won't get as much as I thought. And then we had a few warm days, bright sunshine, and those things just exploded. And so they're out there right now, and they're just waiting until I pull a gate, and then the pigs will be in on them. Which in my situation, because I'm a scrounger, I've got lots of feed. But if I was relying on just the feed that I could purchase, I would be very happy. I would be a lot happier about that because of the feed that I'm growing. And then I'm always happy when the field increases in fertility. Anytime anything increases in fertility, it's a good thing. And there's no reason why it shouldn't. And fertility does not come in a bottle. It doesn't. That's not fertility. That's like steroids, that takes the place of hard work. Hey, David Duncan says, and I mean the deep freeze we get here in northern. Oh yeah, for sure. If it's deep freeze, they'll stick down in there. Pigs are, they're determined. When it comes to food, they're very determined. Okay, Donnie Mono, it looks like you deleted a message. Wonder what it was. I wonder what it was. All right. That looks like about it for questions. I'll tell you this too about feeding in the wintertime. When it's cold, the animal's need for energy increases. So you want to meet those needs for energy. Um, Surprisingly enough, they can derive energy from things that you don't even think they can. Like straw, for instance. You wouldn't think, why would pigs eat straw? They just do. Cows eat it too. Cows eat lots of straw, and there's a lot of energy in it. Okay. And it's usually in the wintertime when they do it. I'll put straw out for the cows when they first go out on green grass in the spring. The first time that they go out there, they eat themselves sick, and then their manure is really loose. It looks like green Kool-Aid coming out, right? And it's a mess. And they'll usually have it down the inside of their legs. They used to kind of worry me, like, oh, the cow has diarrhea. Is that bad? Is that scouring? Is that going to hurt the cow? No. And a friend of mine said, oh, just if you want to slow that down, just put some straw in with them. They'll eat it. And sure enough, they do. And it I don't know, straw's cheap. And if they're eating it, I think it's probably a good thing. I'm feeding hay right now that's from not this last summer, but the summer before. And I'm having to feed it quite liberally because it was in the clear span building that blew off in that big storm. So it was out yesterday in the rain, not good. So I'm just feeding it. And they're also going out on the field too. There's open water out there. So I'm not watering them at the barn right now. Probably will have to start up again at the end of the week, but there's plenty of water out in the field. So, all right. Well, that looks like it. I'm going to get going. Right now, we do not have a guinea pig for interview tomorrow night. I don't know if that's going to change. If it does, I will be on at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for our interview. If it doesn't, so be it. I've got a lot of things going right now with the beef harvest class coming this Saturday and Sunday. I got some people coming to help me on Friday to tie up some loose ends. And yeah, that's great. I wish everybody could come. Next year, you're probably going to want to. If you haven't been to one of our charcuterie classes, that's going to be December 10th and 11th. And that's fun. That's a lot of fun, right? They're all fun. You get to come here and see Baker's Green Acres. It's not the greatest time of the year, but it can be a pretty nice day. We'll see. I think this weekend's going to be decent. It's going to be in the mid 30s, but it's supposed to be wet. So we'll see. All right. I'm going to get going. I'm going to end the stream. Remember, anyone can farm. Good night now.